This sounds horrible, but do you ever wonder what it would be like if you and your wife were separated by something bigger? Like death, like her death?
I have given it a fair amount of thought.
Not in any painful way, but just like a gentle floating off.
It's got to be peaceful. I mean, this is the mother of your children.
And then the new wife would be great.
God, I can't wait to meet my second wife. I hope she likes me better than this one.
This is 40.
This is a long ass goddamn Judd Apatow movie. Goddamn it.
Okay, was it long? Because
it was fucking long.
I had to watch it in sections, so I was like, either this movie is really long, or my sense of time is off.
It is indeed.
It is long.
Over 2 hours. It is 134 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
However, that being said, I apparently found myself in the minority of thinking this movie was funny as hell.
What the hell?
I'm sorry. I like this much better than Knocked Up, which this is the
sequel.
Sequel.
I'd say it's a direct sequel to Knocked Up.
Well,
because Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann play the same couple.
But there are tertiary characters in that. They're not big characters in that film. And here, this is all their story.
Okay, then it's a spin-off of Knocked Up.
No,
it's a spin-off.
Wasn't part of the title a loose spin-off from?
Yeah, it says specifically that it's like a sort of sequel.
Because I thought I saw that in the advertising, at least for the commercials.
Because he's
close.
taking those characters of Paul Rudd, who plays Pete, and Leslie Mann, who's Judd Apatow, the director and writer's real life wife, as a couple, and they're, like I said, they're just side couple in Knocked Up. That's really about Seth Rogen and
Katherine Heigl.
Katherine Heigl,
thankfully never made another movie again after that. Right?
Well, at least not together.
Yeah,
it would have been nice. Is all I'm saying.
I was curious if actually she was going to make a cameo in this.
That would have been fun to have
not.
them pop by at some point.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is that makes us like. The one thing that I will say that I didn't like is that if you're gonna advertise it in that way, and the fact that we know Seth Rogen's still on Judd Apatow's cock, are you seriously not gonna have him show up at some point? I could live without Katherine Heigl, but really no Seth Rogen.
Yeah, I know.
At all.
It makes you go, how much is he on that cock? Jesus Christ! I mean, just leave it alone for a second.
Some of these side characters make appearances. Charlene Yai, who played Jodie, who's a very small character in the original, appears here as a slightly bigger character here.
Okay, Jason Segel.
Jason Segel.
But he's not playing the same character.
He's playing the same character.
Is he?
Yeah, I believe so.
I mean,
yeah, Jason. Yeah,
okay, because I know he's Jason, but that's his real name. Well, it's just that his characters are so completely different.
Well, it's so different because he plays a goddamn fitness goddamn guy, and you're like him.
Yeah,
fitness?
that's stunt
in the
casting.
Same sentence.
If ever I heard it, like we need a fitness guru. I got Jason Segel over here.
I know. It's like
oh, that's funny. Okay, now seriously, who do we got?
He's leading a jogging group, and I'm like, really? Is this where the comedy comes in? Is this it?
Well, it's presumably a lot later. I mean, because it's like, this is 40. They were clearly not supposed to be near 40 in the last film. And, watching this couple who have like been married together here for a while, and they were even for the original film, that was clear that like there was love lost in the marriage. But this is really about a couple that like isn't good at talking about that love lost. Like they're like, we just gloss over those problems and we find that our relationship is great as long as we don't talk about the little day-to-day stuff that irritates us. This is about what happens when you let that go on for 20 years or so.
They're in a relationship coma is what they're into. And the problem with this movie for me is that the first hour of it seemed like skits about, hey, this is 40, the skit show, where it's different skits about what it's like being 40, like the stupid, boring problems. And I'm like, who has these problems besides rich white people?
Right,
I don't get it.
Instead of being that 70s show, it's that 2012 show.
Yeah, I know. And I'm just like, really? This is what you're going to put me through? Because I was like, okay, after the hour mark, I was like, okay, what is the point of this movie?
Boy, I'm a over 40 white guy, and there was a lot I identified with.
Oh, you son of a
Maybe
bitch.
I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination, that's for sure.
Well, they aren't rich either.
No.
You know what?
Although it still does that thing where it's like, we're not rich, we're struggling for money, even though we live in a 9-bedroom house.
I know, they live in a 9-bedroom house. I'm sorry, but you're goddamn rich if you're able to make the payments on it.
And it's an interesting thing because I get the impression like when they started out, not only were they full of hopes and dreams, but she had her business, which is being a pretty good success. he's got his, he's got a fledgling record company he's got going.
And they're clear that right before that, he worked for Sony as a really successful record
Right,
exec. Like
right.
he was he was good at his job and made a lot of money at
Yeah,
it.
so them buying a big house when they had money, I understand that.
Yeah.
Because now they're drowning in debt. This is like, okay, the page is turned and things aren't as rosy as they were before.
They took a big chance.
Leon, look, each of those goddamn little bastards that they have 2 little girls. Each of them have a goddamn iPod and a goddamn iMac or one of those Apple notebooks. Where I'm like,
I know.
who can afford that? Each kid has their own.
Well, back when they had money, they
Bullshit!
did.
Well, no, I mean, they're clear that they did actually come from a point where they were making a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
they referenced several times how well he was doing at Sony, how many famous people he knows and respects him. I mean, he was kind of a celebrity in the business, and then he said, I'm striking out on my own. This movie starts kind of a little bit after he struck out on his own, and it's clear he's striking out at striking out on his own. Because he's got that whole sort of, hey man, I was tired of always having to promote these guys I didn't care
Britney
about. The
Spears.
kids.
I want some real acts, some real musicians like Graham Parker. Like who? And one of the things I found funny in the movie is like his dream is to promote a real artist like Graham Parker, and everybody, even his best friends, are going like, who? Why are you doing this? Even Graham Parker himself is like, why are you promoting me?
Yeah, well,
I don't sell records.
I'm fucking old. I don't need to be selling records. You need to put me in a home.
I was laughing at him as well, like, because even though I understand that instinct, I mean,
Sure.
I'd like come from like more that indie alternative record base, but I'm not an idiot. I know if I owned a record label, I wouldn't be like, hey man, HR used to be in Bad Brains is looking to make a comeback. Let's give him like 50 grand to do it. Like,
No,
fuck that. Nobody's gonna buy that record.
You signed a bunch of Carly Rae Jepsons and Jesse J's so that you can have 1 or 2 Graham Parkers as well.
Exactly.
And he's got the attitude of a guy who's not 40 and doesn't have kids and a mortgage.
You're right, and I think that's where it throws me off sometimes because I'm like, this doesn't seem like a family with kids. I mean, just the way they're reacting to how their kids are acting half the time, I'm like, this is a scripted family because I know plenty of families that would be like they wouldn't talk to their kids. It's like, since when are all the kids hanging out huddled up in bed together watching TV? I don't know a single family that does that.
That's a white people thing.
I don't get that.
That's actually more common than you think. You know, I didn't so much watch this going like, here we go, white people. I wasn't thinking that at all. But what I was thinking,
this is white people. That's what I thought.
A rare view.
because
inside the line.
some of the problems they have also is with their parents. Whereas her father's John Lithgow, who's a successful surgeon, who just doesn't come around.
Yeah,
hasn't even seen his grandkids in 7
who's
years.
everything but a deadbeat dad.
Yes.
I mean, you might as well call him that at that point.
Yeah.
But he's like,
But he gives them money.
wants nothing to do with them, and naturally, like, there's hard feelings there from both, Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann's character. But how do you deal with that? Really, he's a rich, well-off guy. They don't want to piss him off totally, just in case.
Just in case.
But at the same time, he's never around. On the other hand,
On the flip side,
you
you
have
got
Paul
Albert Brooks.
Rudd's dad, Albert Brooks, who is a really, really like
Jewish
martyr Jewish guy who's constantly putting himself up there to say like, oh, fine, I only raised you. Don't worry about giving me money, even though I really need it. It's like, yeah, dude, you got a new young wife and you had like, what was it? Triplets, right? Who identical triplets.
Well, just because they use fertility drugs. I mean, he wasn't like, I could cut him a break and that he wasn't one of those idiots who just kept pumping out kids.
Yeah.
It just all came out at once where you go like, oh, dude, you pulled the handle and got 3 lemons.
I know.
He's not
That
an
was hilarious.
unpleasant guy. In that
It's
sense.
Albert Brooks, so he's got a lot of personality and he's funny. But even if your dad is hilarious, if he's borrowing 10 grand from you every month, it's like,
See,
dude,
he was the only guy I believed it. He was the only character that I was like, okay, I know that guy. I'll probably be that guy.
you know what? I love the fact that he was such a mooch and was not the least bit apologetic about it.
Oh no, and that's what I loved about his character. I was like, out of everyone in this movie, he is the most honest, and I think I dug that about the character.
Why would you have 3 kids anyway? I mean, you're 60 years old. You had no money.
Because Claire wanted a baby. If we didn't at least try, she would have left me. She was 45 years old. Nobody thought it would take. The doctor, when we're doing in vitros, winking at me like, don't worry, don't worry. We were very unlucky. And now we have these 3 beautiful children.
But I mean, I will give the movie its credit. I mean, there are some bits in here that felt like, okay, these are obviously the comedy bits that usually shouldn't work in a movie like this that actually do. I mean, there's characters that come in here like the pissed off mother from that goddamn
Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, Melissa McCarthy. I usually hate looking at that bitch on the screen. I'm like,
but her whole sequence is funny as fuck.
And I was really taken back by how funny that was.
In fact, the end credits are all just pretty much a sequence of alternate takes of her big scene as she's improving it, because no one can keep a straight face because she's just too fucking funny.
Yeah. I was just surprised that little things like that actually, kind of held me through watching this thing, because I have to admit, it did take me a while, because like I said, it was a series of skits about being 40, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Now let's get to the story, because I'm hanging by a thread.
Sag, and you get a little bit, you get love handles.
And you gotta show your spouses gross things about each other. You gotta show each other you taking a shit in front of each other. Okay, I get that.
Okay, but that being said, there's not a lot of films about relationships at that point either. I mean, it's not like this is a wildly overexplored subject we're talking about here. It's just that we're all getting near 40 or over 40, and we kind of know what that's like in real life. It's a little depressing to think about. I think I found it quite funny in the ways it was dealing with that. It's a little more sketchy at first in terms of like being like sketch comedy, but I never thought it wasn't funny. It just had a little bit of pacing problems with that it was like, are you going to tell a story somewhere in here? Mm-hmm. Once it finally does, I found myself concerned and interested. If I had a real problem, it's actually with, once again, with some of the side characters that either go way too goofy or are completely unnecessary, and specifically referring to the employees that Leslie Mann has in her shop. There's
Jody Yee. Yeah.
Jody Yee and Megan Fox are both there entirely for this unnecessary arc that seems only there to give Leslie Mann's character more depth, but it never achieves it. If anything, Leslie Mann is way too shrill in this whole film. And I blame to some degree the actress, although I think normally she's just fine, but I think she overplays it to a point where you fall much more on Paul Rudd's side here in their disagreements than you do on hers.
See, I found myself going back and forth. I feel like I'm in right between you and co-host on this movie, and I don't mean like I fit comfortably in between. I mean, it's a like jumbled hop back and forth, because I felt this movie was the very definition of uneven, in that at times it's telling a story about this couple with two kids and what they're going through. At times it could be very refreshingly honest, and I really dug that about it. At the same time, it's Judd Apatow when he's trying to be funny, or he's telling the cast, improv and do stuff. It felt very obvious, and it was just like, that doesn't fit with what's going on in this movie. Can we get the comedy show over and get back to the actual story? You get stuff like Megan Fox's, she's got the two employees, and it could have been consolidated into one employee. And Megan Fox mostly carries that. When you get to Jody Lee, at this time, it gets so goofy. It's like, wow, you just like stopped everything to let her improv this, and it's too stupid.
Her scene was very strange and it felt like it was crowbarred in almost.
And with Jason Segel's character, I was like, you could take him completely out of this movie. And I know I'm always ragging on this guy, but really this was a movie where he could be taken completely out. It would save on the running time and wouldn't affect it.
Because honestly, you forget him after the movie's over. You forget that he's even in it until you start looking at the cast list. But I mean, yeah, and I have to admit, Megan Fox, I thought if they would have just stuck on that character, they may have had some depth.
Really?
The thing is that, when you realize that the main actress is having her relationship problem, she needs to have somebody to talk to about that. Yeah, and I thought she would have been decent as that best friend role.
If they had written something for her to do as that, but ultimately
I thought they did for a little bit.
The arc they give her is that the only thing she ever gets to do in that whole movie is to be the girl that every guy in the movie turns into a drooling idiot every time she's near. And I admit Megan Fox is sexy, but come on, there's a point that you go, aren't you going to take any other part other than the girl who every guy can't stop drooling?
Hey, you know what? She does it well.
She does it well.
I know. It made me
that's what's being
her.
offered to her, and I drooled over her in this entire movie.
That's the extent of her arc in here. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. She is sexy. I think
you missed something.
As a character, I didn't think she was.
I know, because what you're either not missing or not remembering is that what she represents to Leslie Mann that like, oh, this is what I'm missing out on. Now that I'm 40,
Right.
I don't get to be that, and I'm watching her and living
I
vicariously
got that
through
that's
her.
what was supposed to be going on, but I didn't feel it was ever convincing.
I feel like it was, but the thing is, when getting back to Judd Apatow, like so much of my problem with the movie comes down to him. And when I look at this movie, I think back to, I'm thinking Funny People and Knocked Up. And it seems like this movie seems like it's very personal, but also his view of women, of wives, especially when they're pregnant, is not good. Because both times he writes a movie about a woman who's pregnant, he makes her completely shrill,
Nagging.
annoying, nagging, out of control, to where it's like
I'm not sure what's not realistic.
he takes it to the point where you do hate her. Because what's happening,
he takes him to almost a cartoon level, you know.
Whereas a guy, you're going like, ooh, I can't stand her. Yeah. But when you watch the movie, if you're honest about it, Paul Rudd, there's times I think I disliked him more. Because I was just like, man,
Stop being such a arrested adolescent.
Well, yes, it's Judd Apatow's two characters that he has in every movie: the shrill, irrational woman and the man-child, guy. Mm-hmm. And even watching both of them at just times, so I was just like, wow, fuck both of y'all.
Yeah. And there's a part about that makes it seem dated in a way. Watching this felt like, I felt like this should have came out like 5 years ago or something. Especially when they're like crowbarring in the Lost references where the little girl, the teenage girl is watching, like obsessed with Lost. And you're wondering, what goddamn teenage girl right now is being obsessive over goddamn Lost? That shit ended.
The only thing I'll say about that is that I'm thankful because it's like filled with major spoilers, that whole sequence. Like if you haven't seen Lost yet and you want to watch Lost, don't watch this movie because it shows
that's right.
the final scene
that's
of
right.
Lost.
I forgot about that.
And you're like, what the fuck, Judd Apatow? It was only like 3 years ago or something.
That's
Come
true.
on.
But watching those scenes, it made me go, okay, is Judd Apatow coming to terms with Lost and its ending that he wrote himself as a goddamn teenage girl, like trying to figure this all out? Like he used this movie as a vehicle to figure out what the fucking ending of Lost was all about?
Well, you can understand that is an arc that any man needs to go through when watching Lost.
Yeah, imagining yourself as a teenage girl going through it makes a lot of sense.
Well, it might help to understand.
And as much as I just went on a rant about these things I didn't like, when I talk about how honest it could be, like the times when it gets serious and they're having fights, I was just like, wow, that's real. That's like you're watching something go down, and the way everybody's yelling back and forth at each other. I'm like, this part was written from some true life shit.
And there's a lot of parts like that in this that I actually appreciated very much on a drama level, where I went, this is what happens. This is those fights. I've been in those fights.
Oh yeah.
I know what that's like. I that's part of what really sold me on this. I don't think that all the comedy worked, certainly, and I don't think that the way they define the characters worked here per se as completely convincing people either. But those moments that I think are really kind of rife throughout this. I mean, there's a lot of them here that are just a little, almost too real, squirm real.
Yeah.
But then are replaced quickly with something that is just more broad comedy that works as well. Saved this movie for me over the parts that did not work. Because I actually am going to give this movie a full price. And I know that I might be in the minority, but I laughed pretty consistently throughout this film. And even while I was going to go, I went from time to time like, that bothers me that they did that. As happened in every Judd Apatow film made, produced or directed. There was more stuff that I liked.
Okay. I can't quite go the full price. Because like I said, it's uneven in a way that bugged me. The part of me just thought, that the parts that are so well written, and it's so much of the core of it, you could cut out the parts I think don't work and still have a good movie. But I feel like if this movie had been directed by James L. Brooks, it would have been a home run. It would have been like one of those movies that you look at for Oscars.
No, you're right there. Yeah. Watching this, you can go, most of the problems are attributed directly to Apatow's quirks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's too bad because and at over 2 hours, there's just no excuse for this. So it's funny because I was thinking about Revolutionary Road because I know Coas was like, I hate this movie because it's just two people arguing. And I always feel like, but it's just so beautiful in the way it's done. But there were times in this where I was like, it's just two goddamn people arguing and it's making me mad.
There's no Michael Shannon. There's no fucking Michael Shannon to save the day. That's what I want.
But I still come in at a matinee on it.
Well, I'm gonna throw it out there. It's a rental for me. I thought the movie is too goddamn long for a comedy. No, and I will say this until I'm fucking blue and dead in the face. No comedy needs to be 2 hours long ever. Get your ass you sit the people down, make them laugh, and get them the fuck out of there.
So it should have been called "This Is 134 Minutes."
Yeah, 134 minutes of just all right the fuck already. I mean, the movie, like I said, when it does work, it's very far and few between for me. I mean, sure, there's some moments where, he wants to, put his life in the movie, and I can see those moments. It's just too bad there's not enough of them, because he'll throw in some crazy shit, like that crazy ass Korean chick doing her comedy bit, and it really takes you out of the movie. There's too many.
It does.
There's too many points in this movie where it just takes me out. And then I have to reinvest myself. But the whole time I'm wondering, why do I give a shit about people trying to be 40? I mean, give me something else. Throw me something else here. I think Woody Allen has done that plenty of times, making people feel older in their 40s or in their 50s, or just, going through life. I think he does that better than Judd Apatow ever could, honestly. But yeah, it's just a comedy that just, not enough comedy for me. Goes on too goddamn long. And I mean, I don't know. Somewhere in here, there's a good movie, but I didn't see it, so it's a rental.
It's weird because it's a personal movie that Judd Apatow put a lot of himself into. So to have it fail, it's like, wow, you really actually tried and didn't quite work. So I don't know what to tell you. It's different than the ones you half-assed. So you go like, well, come on, you knew that sucked.
I do keep wanting to go, Apatow, go back to TV.
Oh shit!
Seriously, we loved your TV.
Yeah, right about teenagers. Yeah,
and to be fair, he's like a really heavily involved in the show Girls on HBO, which is a pretty goddamn good show.
That's what I hear.
So,
well, you know what? The little kids and the two teenage girls I thought were far more interesting characters.
They good, well, especially the older girl. I thought she was a pretty good actress.
Yeah, I thought she was really good too.
I was much more interested in what was going on in Law.
He loves you because you're the fighter. One person in a relationship's got a punch.
I brought a magic cookie.
I don't feel anything. Do you?
I think this room has rodents. Just saw it.
Have you seen my starfish?
Where'd I put my starfish?